Welcome to the Pop Tower Podcast with your host, the man behind the myth, Peter Dawson, and the soulful Lordy, James Bullock.
All right, it's the Pop Tower Podcast. As was said, this is episode 53, and I'm Peter W. Dawson.
I'm James Bullock.
And James, I'm feeling good about today's episode.
Wow. I was really expecting you not to feel bright, but more dark.
Yeah, well, that's what my alias would say. That was a really forced third reference. All right, so we got three things to talk about today, because we're going to talk about TV twice over, although, again, streaming.
Yeah.
Although the first one we're going to talk about is going to air on, I think it has aired on TV elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it actually is going to air on BBC.
Well, that's the weird thing, because you think it would air on... Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is Good Omens.
Right.
And, because it's airing on BBC Two, as well as on Amazon Video. Mm-hmm. So it's like this weird cross-production. And we've gotten two of these this year, because the other one we got was HBO with Sky for Chernobyl.
Yeah,
we also haven't talked about.
I know we've talked about something else that did the same thing.
Yeah. It's happening a lot, and it's churning out some of the best TV of 2019 so far.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a spoiler to say I love the show.
Yeah.
So to get into it, Good Omens is based on a 1990 Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett novel.
R.I.P. R.I.P. Ty.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Pratchett. Oh, one of the most important writers. It's weird, because Pratchett was partially inspired by Douglas Adams, who was partially inspired by Monty Python. So you see this interesting evolution of British comedy and writing.
Exactly.
And we just lost another great. It sucks. And what's the full title of the book? Because I think it's Good Omens, The Nice and Accurate Prophecies of Agnes Nutter.
Yeah.
All that really matters, of course, is Good Omens. And for a very, very, very simplified explanation of what this is about, it's essentially what happens if Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett decided to write The Omen.
Exactly.
Because in a lot of ways, it's basically the plot of The Omen.
Yeah, because you have the Antichrist supposedly being born of somebody that's going to be a high-ranking official, but he's like, no, I'm just going to be a normal kid.
I know, it's great. And, yeah, it's an ensemble piece, although the two most important characters by far are David Tennant as the snake from the Garden of Eden, Crowley.
Yep.
Later, Crowley. I can't remember what his first name turns out to be, because doesn't he give one at one point?
Yeah, I forgot too.
But, yes, so David Tennant playing Weird Snake Man, who's also a demon.
Eccentric Snake Man.
Oh, yeah. And then Michael Sheen is playing Aziraphale,
yes,
an angel who just couldn't stand to see Adam and Eve escape the forest, or escape the Garden of Eden without help.
Right.
So he loaned them his flaming sword.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's very much the delightfully, somewhat effeminate, but still quirky dude. And then David Tennant, of course,
he's just David Tennant playing a demon, just living it up.
But yeah, basically, when you say David Tennant plays a demon, it's exactly what you think it is. I think we know David Tennant well enough at this point to understand what a good David Tennant performance is.
What kind of an evil person he could be while actually being very lovable and almost incorrigible.
Well, I know, because that's kind of the thing. It's his relationship with Aziraphale is very much okay, are they secretly falling in love with each other, or are they just really good friends?
I just always took them as really good friends. I know we had those moments, but it just always felt like, you had that one buddy that's always a bad influence, but you always hang around him because he's just that type of guy. You had that kind of connection.
Yeah, it's just like the friend, you know what? I could get behind you.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And, I mean, in the book, Aziraphale in particular was meant to be in the closet, but they kind of wrote that out of the series.
Right.
So, probably for the best, because, I mean, it was 1990 era gay jokes, so,
yeah.
that wouldn't have aged well.
No, not at all.
I mean,
you think about some of the stuff from just the early 2000s that hasn't aged well. 90s, oh goodness.
I still say you know how I know you're gay joke from what do you call it? 4-Year-Old Virgin Works,
but
it's on the line. But yeah, no, like I said, you can tell some of this was done in 1990 because some of the stuff hasn't necessarily been aged up that great.
Right. There's some references and some kind of just little 90s pop things that you pick up on that it just wouldn't make any sense now if it was of a source material that was written like in the last 5 years.
Probably one of the most glaring is because the kid who turns out to be the Antichrist, he just plays it in the Force with his friends all day. I'm like, that doesn't feel real.
Right, that doesn't happen now.
No, like not to the extent they do it.
Like I said, that feels like something from the late 80s, early 90s. Especially if you're talking like a television show or a movie. Like that's what Friends would be doing. And talking about like, oh, what I see in the clouds and just like the weird things that kids would talk about when they were bored.
Yep. And there was some other stuff they changed that was was it because John Hamm plays Gabriel, the Archangel.
Right. Oh, he's great.
And even though, he's pretty good, but there's a couple times you could tell he got given British dialogue and they didn't bother to change it.
Yeah.
Probably the most, I think at one point he says, "What did you make of that then?" Which doesn't sound right in an American accent.
It's an American accent, yeah. It just didn't make any sense. Like, I did go back on that when I heard it. I was like, did I just mishear something?
Yeah. For some reason, they also changed him to Gabriel from the Metatron, who was supposed to be in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So, not sure what's up with that. But, hey, and a lot of the other stuff is, like, they translated some of the jokes from, with, Anathema and, the predictions.
Oh, yeah,
to make it a bit more modern. Although there's still some stuff they just flat out decided not to explain.
Yeah, and tying into Anathema being Agnes Nutter's last descendant.
Yep.
And just like you said, that's like kind of a really big part when it comes to the title of the original book.
Yeah.
And you don't really get that connection with the story just because of the title being shortened and really like that whole overall arcing feeling of, oh my goodness, this person had such a major impact on the story without really being a part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the things. Of course, in this case, we had every British actor ever want a cameo in this. I mean, for God's sakes, David Morrissey shows up in one episode just to announce, "Hey, I found Atlantis."
Yes.
And I'm like, good job, David Morrissey.
I mean, it literally have him as just a guest for that role. Like, it's just like they looked at like a pool of actors, especially European and British actors. It's like, who could we get for such an awesome show?
Oh, I know, because, well, like, just in voice roles alone, there's him, there's a British comedian, Johnny Vegas.
Yes.
And, of course, Benedict Cumberbatch has to make a cameo as, who else? Satan.
Yeah.
And what's his nuts? Sir Derek Jacobi, he plays the actual Metatron.
Yes, he does.
And then, what's his name? Josie Lawrence plays Agnes Nutter herself.
Yes.
Probably most famous from Whose Line. And Nick Offerman even shows up.
Yeah.
Because, of course. Like, it's just this plethora of notable actors in really small roles, and really just like, huh.
I love the fact
cool.
that Nick was a U.S. ambassador in the story.
Yeah. And then of course, Brian Cox's death. Because if you've ever read a Pratchett Discworld novel, you know he loves writing the character of death.
Right.
And this really feels like a version of his death. Like, not the exact same, but there's element of the interaction with him. Just feel very similar. But no, it's a very funny series with a lot of just great little bits. Some pretty dark jokes at points, but they work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
like, yeah, the only other thing I think doesn't age or didn't necessarily pan that well to screen, besides the kids still playing in the woods and stuff. Like, unfortunately, despite being one of the most important parts of the plot, the kids are probably one of the weakest.
Yeah, because I mean, and that was probably the biggest flaw I had with the entire story in the presentation of the series is the fact that one is only 6 episodes. Of course, like I said, it's a mini-series. It's only 6 episodes. Thankfully, they give you kind of like a good finality to it if we never have anything else, but they still leave it open for maybe a season 2. I don't think there will be.
Probably not, because they did all of the book.
Yeah, they really went with the budget on this one. One thing, it looks gorgeous. First of all, I just have to note
Absolutely.
that. looks absolutely fantastic. It looks like a big budget film stretched out into a TV series. But the biggest issue I have with it, even with it being a miniseries, is the fact that we have like certain secondary characters that get a spotlight, but it's always so minor. Like, I want an episode dedicated to these people. Like, one group of people, like you said, with the kids is one. For me, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, I would have loved to have just an episode dedicated to them.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, especially because some of the bits we got. I was worried that Chow Joke wasn't going to translate.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if all of it translated well, but it still worked okay.
It still
they
worked,
updated that, too. Because, yeah, Chow is not actually food product in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But, like, the other thing, like, probably the other thing that could have stood a bit more development was the romance plot that basically just happens.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, thankfully the actors involved are still pretty good at it.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like, okay, I don't necessarily care for the execution, but you have people that actually can carry it well enough that it works.
Yeah, no, this thing was pretty much perfect casting, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can't deny that at all. Like, they had, like I said, even the characters that didn't get the most spotlight, the reason that I'm upset about that is because they were so good at it. Like, I wanted to see them on screen more.
I know what you mean. No, so definitely check this out, especially if you have Amazon Prime and you've never really watched anything on Amazon Prime before. This is a great first thing to watch.
Yeah, like I said, for us, we watched The Ticket, we watched this, we watched anime too, but like, this is probably at the top of the list of Amazon Prime offerings that we've reviewed so far.
Absolutely, this has got to be one of the best. And I do want to mention, because Neil Gaiman personally adapted the book.
Mm-hmm.
The bit they added that was not in the book, which takes up nearly half an episode, feels so much like an obvious evolution of the jokes they had in Life of Brian.
Right, yeah.
It's so great. Because, like, they still hit the right type of humor, where the historic figures are treated relatively seriously. Like, there's a scene with Jesus in there where Jesus is played straight. It's just them watching what's going on and then commenting on it.
Right.
You know, it's kind of a glove. It's like, oh yeah, that'll be why. But, like, you know, there's nothing funny about Jesus getting crucified.
Right.
It's how people explain it.
Exactly.
That's really the joke.
That the Watchmen kind of mentality, where you're observing it, and it's got this dry humor connected to it too.
Yeah. That
you're not necessarily trying to be funny.
No.
But just the way it's coming across, like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's some great bits with that. Yeah, do give it a watch. I don't know if there's much else we can say at this point.
I mean, one thing about, like I said, 6 episodes, barely an hour each, really easy sit. Really
Absolutely.
easy to watch.
Absolutely. And boy, if you like some Queen.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, you will definitely get your fix here.
Yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody. We're just watch the Good Omens. You'll be in good shape. Just watch Good Omens.
Absolutely.
You'll get your Queen fix.
Yep. But going from a queen to, what's a good word to describe her?
I would say a rebel, but that is almost like it's almost a situation where, like, I don't want a tag. I don't want to have a criteria. I'm just me.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're going to go wander back into the world of Jessica Jones,
yes.
New York's most premier superpowered detective, in that she's the only one.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
You can be the best if there's no one else.
So we've talked about this show before. In general, I think we liked it all right. The first 2 seasons.
We've always talked about we enjoyed the first season. Second season was kind of a mixed bag.
Well, because I think even the first season is kind of an emblematic of the problem that the Netflix shows have always had. It's the 13-episode thing.
Yeah.
Because even the first season probably only needed 10.
Yeah, because there was, I believe it was like between episodes like 9 and 11 or so, like this one story arc that they just completely like halted everything to just fill up that time. And it just made no sense why we would go this way. And then they just went a whole different, and then they went another way with it. But if you just had like 10 episodes, you wouldn't even have to need that big pause in the middle, essentially.
Yeah, it was weird. But, yeah, this time around we got really just kind of the fallout where Jessica Jones has to deal with the fact that her mom is dead, and she's got to figure out what to do with her life.
Yeah.
And as this happens, everyone else's life is falling apart. And to top it all off, there's no serial killer on the loose.
Yeah.
And he's just a dude. But it's like, can you stop him and be super? And it's an interesting dichotomy to have a normal human villain against a superpowered person. Because we most of the time when we have like normal human villains, it's against pretty much normal human heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, no, he's a normal dude.
Or superpowered villains against normal human heroes. Like it's always some kind of super in it where the villain looks intimidating. Whereas with this, it was a situation where we had the villain actually not be the most intimidating factor in the whole story.
No, that's really the thing. It's not so much about the villain as it is stopping him the right way, which is actually a pretty good arc for Jessica Jones to have, because she's constantly had the I don't care, I trash things, I'm drunk.
Right. I do whatever I want to get the job done.
Yeah. And now she's kind of facing her own demons in that respect. The fact that there's a personal element in this, because I think we can say what's going on with one of the characters in this.
Oh yeah, well we have to, because I mean it comes off of the second season, as you just said, with the death of her mother. Yeah,
because Trish has powers.
Yes.
And yeah, she and so we have to deal with that. She has to deal with that because now Jessica Jones's best friend is a vigilante in her own right with powers, killing people.
And it's one of the key things, as you brought up earlier, like just making fun of the fact like she's the only superpowered detective in the world essentially. And in this, we have Trish step off and literally tell her, "You never wanted this. I have the powers. I can do the job. You step back."
Yep. It's really an interesting dichotomy. That's probably the most engaging arc of all of this, though, because
if anything that happened during this season for me, like that's the only thing I really cared about in terms of the continuation. Like, I did care about the villain. I did. Like there were certain moments I really, really enjoyed with the villain. Like I said, just because of the fact, like how in the world would you actually lock him down? Because of the stuff he was doing, and the way he would try to manipulate the press, manipulate the media, manipulate even the cops. You wanted to see him go down, but you didn't know exactly how they would do it. Whereas with Trish and Jessica, you had this situation where you have these sisters essentially, and one is trying to come to grips with the idea of another doing something completely terrible, while the other is trying to find almost a satisfaction in being the person that Jessica already is, while also trying to shed the idea of what it means to be Trish Walker. Because then, of course, like there's several moments during this early part of the season, like anytime she tries to do something, it's always, "Oh, you're Patsy." Like she's always constantly haunted by that. Like even if she tries to do something completely out of the ordinary, she's still stuck with this, "Oh man, I am this child star who has to do this, this, and this to be famous."
Yep. And now she's trying to assume a new identity, but it's also an identity of someone else. So
right.
Like Jessica trying to deal with the worst aspects of herself, while Trish is once again having an identity crisis, and this is a way better identity crisis than the one she had in season 2.
Very much so.
Like that was the in-between crisis, which was not nearly as engaging.
No, not at all.
And the serial killer guy is interesting, but like I really didn't care about Jerry Hogarth this season.
Oh man, honestly, a majority of the scenes featuring her, especially when it came to the last half of the season, I was fast forwarding.
Yeah.
I did not care. Like there were moments where I would stop and watch because I knew exactly I knew it had the connection to Jessica, but like the other moments, I didn't care.
I know, it's because that's the thing. It's like Carrie Ann Moss did such a good job with the character.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was really good in Iron Fist. She was really good in the first season of Jessica Jones. Even the second season of Jessica Jones, she was
the second
solid.
season was really good, especially with her sickness. And that was one of the things that was like really interesting in the first episode of the season, where they kind of put this ultimatum between her and Jessica, and I thought it was going to play a much bigger role in the overall narrative. And it really, after like that first episode, was completely forgotten about.
No, there was just a subplot that went somewhere and eventually led to a thing.
Right.
But like, I put about as much investment into describing it as the show did in making it really matter.
Very much so.
I think it's like the final episode that it actually has some payoff.
Yeah.
And it's pretty meh.
Yeah, no, it was like, okay, yeah, I see you for who you are, and like, okay, there it is. Like, you don't feel really any emotional connection to either character when it happens. And you really don't feel bad for either character when it happens either.
No, I was more invested in what's his nuts, new guy.
Oh yeah, headache boy, headache guy.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to know I'm being represented in the Marvel Universe. Headaches are my power too. Except I don't detect evil, I just detect light.
Yes.
There's definitely light on right now. You think?
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked it up. Oh, Eric. Eric is his name. There we go.
Yeah. Well, because I can't remember if they actually called him by his comic name.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, I could not remember his name to save my life. Like, it's his government name. But I definitely remember that look and that smirk and his ability to cook some mean hamburgers.
He was likable. Like, he wasn't bad. But I still... It's one of those things. It feels like they put these characters in to try and pad out the season.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way I can describe it. Like,
for example, like, you look at Malcolm's character arc throughout the first 3 seasons, and it's a lot better of a ride.
Yeah. Like, no, because Malcolm, he hasn't been the strongest character, but he's still been effective.
Right.
And, like, the things going on with him have been interesting. And, like, especially in this one where he gets a chance to really show, like, because in the second season, well, okay, the first season, he's just kind of there.
He's a dope fiend. He's a drug addict that's trying to get his life together, but he really can't because he's addicted to stuff. Like, that's really...
Yeah, and he kind of becomes an assistant, but not really.
Right.
And he has the support group thing, which ends up being a bad idea. But, you know, he didn't see that coming. Second season, like, he gets more involved with Trish's arc, which, you know, not great for her because her arc wasn't good, but his involvement in it was good.
Right.
And, like,
there's really an awakening moment of, like, what he needs to do to get his life in order.
Yeah, like, him essentially being mentored to become perhaps the better detective at Alias, if not the inheritor of it, has actually worked fairly well.
Yes.
His usefulness in the plot has perhaps not always been the best, but he's been pretty solid. Eric getting integrated, it kind of tied into the serial killer dude, but it's like the 13 episode thing. It's like, he probably only needed to be in 6 of them. Right,
and I was just about to say, when you said the usage and effectiveness of him in the plot, when you talk about Malcolm, is the complete opposite of Eric. It's like, whenever we need him is when we can use him. He didn't feel like he was essential to the plot.
No. I know, that's kind of the thing.
And we know the serial killer is evil. You don't have to have him tell us.
Yeah, it's like, really, you're telling me the man that kills people for really poorly defined reasons is evil?
And chopping people up and hiding them in the sewers? Yeah, like he may be evil, or he may just be a little off. Like yeah, we have to have somebody with superpowers.
That's some episode 6, season 8 Arya Stark stuff right there. Hey, Arya, remember that time you fed a guy his family? Sorry, I've still got my mind on Game of Thrones.
Oh man, it's gonna be I guarantee by the end of the year people are gonna be still talking about it.
They announced that the writers are going to Comic-Con.
Good lord.
I am really curious what's gonna happen there.
What are they gonna do?
The writers just kind of forgot about the fan reaction.
Yeah, they're just gonna come out there with like a bunch of cups of coffee, and like, they're gonna try to make a joke of it, people.
Well, with any luck, they'll just ask them to give Kit Harington his sword. Sorry, obviously, since I've gone off track with Game of Thrones, I don't have much else to say about the show. It's fine.
It's a good season, but it's still, like, compared to, say, like, the last season of Luke Cage. You know, because, of course, this is pretty much the last season we're going to get of Jessica Jones, at least on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's solid. You know,
I don't think any of these final seasons have been bad, really, because, like season 2 of Luke Cage had some problems, but I still really liked it.
Oh, yeah, same here.
And the change they made with Iron Fist was really interesting.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's when it got canceled, when the show actually got interesting.
Yeah, when it actually picked up some steam, and I'm like, okay, I'm excited for season 3. No, it's over.
And yeah, Daredevil, it's like, oh, we're actually really back on track here. Oh, it's over.
It's over.
And then what was it, Punisher? It's like
The continuation of a great
anything
series.
Was necessarily anything gained, but it was a fun ride.
Right, exactly. It's like the continuation of a fun series, and it's over.
Yeah, I know this one. Like
I said, we understand what's going on, but then it's also the possibility that we may not get a second, third, or fourth, or whatever we're talking about season from any of these shows.
No, it's a bummer because like I'm thinking about this might actually be the weakest of the final seasons of these Marvel shows, if you don't count the Defenders.
Oh yeah, I don't even count the Defenders. I mean,
because like, I don't say that to say it's bad, but it's just like it just kind of puts it in more sad because like there's like I said, the ending in general for this season was actually pretty solid.
Yeah, very Punisher-esque, really, when you think about it. And but like you say, out of all of them, I'm thinking about it, and yeah, it probably would be the least of the four, I should say, because like I said, oh yeah, because you look at like I said, every one of them pretty much kind of left you wanting more, whereas this was, I'm good with the ride that we've had, and I can call it a day.
Yep.
Like I said, great. I think it was a great job by a majority of the actors and actresses. I think it was an okay story. I just think it was just like the last two seasons, burdened by the fact it had to have 13 episodes.
Yeah, no, I know. Like, we could say that about what? Let me think here. How many seasons of all these Marvel shows are there? Just 3 seasons. Just give me a moment here. 3 seasons of Daredevil, 2 seasons of Luke Cage. We're at 5. 2 seasons of Iron Fist. 3 seasons of Jessica Jones, and then 2 seasons of Punisher. That's 12 seasons.
Yeah.
Probably 8 of them have been burned by too many episodes.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like, it's a shame they didn't really seem to learn the lesson there. Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say at this point.
I think if you enjoyed the first 2 seasons, you'll enjoy this.
Yeah, probably.
If you kind of got burned out by season 2 and not really interested, I don't really see that much in season 3 is going to change your mind.
No, it's probably not going to change your mind, but you'll probably be happy if you were disappointed with some of the arcs in season 2.
True.
That's probably the best way to describe it, because the characters who return, like, except for Hogarth, are pretty solid. Like, Trish got, upgraded. Malcolm still got good stuff going on. Jessica, of course, is still great.
Yeah.
It's just Hogarth kind of got lowered, whereas Trish got elevated. But I don't even think Hogarth was in as much of the season this time. So
No, not at all. Like, she was another one that felt like, hey, we just have her here for specific moments. It didn't feel like she was really crucial to the season. Yeah, of course, there was like a big part of her connection to the main villain, but that could have been really anybody.
Yeah. Well, speaking of one ending Marvel franchise, do you want to dive into this last one?
Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, Lordy.
Yep. Welcome to the darkness, folks. We're talking about Dark Phoenix.
We literally slept on this. Like, we just wanted to just hold back as long as we could for this. Not because we were like, oh, we would have this mega awesome podcast, but because we had to let this sink in for a little bit. Like, really.
For some reason, I really wanted to talk about Brightburn. I genuinely did, and then we didn't talk about much. And it was because I wanted to talk about Godzilla, because I wanted to rave about Godzilla.
Right, oh yeah.
And then, because talk about audience and critical dissonance there. But in this case, the critics kind of called this one right, I think.
Yeah.
Man, a lot of behind-the-scenes nonsense on this one, which really shows in the final product.
Yeah, I will preface this by saying not only did I not care for this movie, and this is coming from a huge X-Men fan. This was coming from a person who will defend the movies a lot more than the majority will.
I defend X3 quite a bit, even though I shouldn't.
Exactly! I made the most crucial mistake I could have ever made coming into this film by rereading the Dark Phoenix saga before I saw it.
You fool. The animated show did a better Dark Phoenix saga.
Oh my goodness, yes it did. Why did I read that comic?
Like, here's what kills me every single time. They just jumped to Dark Phoenix.
Right.
It was never, oh, the Phoenix is good. They just jumped to Dark Phoenix.
And that's one big thing, like you said, you bring up the animated series, they do a very, very good job of it, emphasizing how impactful and important the Phoenix is as a being before it corrupts Jean.
I know.
Jean is completely corrupted incredibly fast. Record time.
Well, don't you understand? It's because she got gaslighted. Because, okay,
Oh.
I'm just going to go into this right out of the gate. 2019 hasn't been a great year. Like, okay, I know I'm a man talking about this, but I gotta say this. 2019 hasn't been a great year for major female characters in fiction getting respectful send-offs.
Mm.
You know, obviously, because we've already talked about Game of Thrones,
Right.
and people were crazy about how that turned out. Jean Grey deserved better than this, man.
So much more.
X3 handled her better than this. And it still wasn't good.
No.
But they did it better than this. And it's more of a focus of this movie.
I mean, it's named after her, for goodness sakes.
And she just... Professor X's justifications. Are we sure we're not watching, like... It doesn't turn out like frickin'... What's his nuts from Split is now actually Professor X? The psychology, like I said gaslighting earlier, like the twisting nonsense used to justify his actions in this.
Yeah,
I hate to be the guy to say it, but
I do appreciate the fact that Beast calls him out about it. But
and
then
Beast
it's like,
right.
But then afterwards it's like, no, it's not your fault. Yes, it is.
It really is. Like, at least he kind of admitted it as much in X3. They didn't handle it that well in that too, but they were like...
Well, at least with X3, it was like, okay, he actually got punished for his actions too.
Yeah, and like he establishes power limiters more than like erasing memories.
Right.
Like it's still, you know, messed up because he's messing with her mind. I'm not gonna defend that, but it's like they understand it was a messed up situation and it wasn't as bad as it was here. What's that? Do both of those but worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've actually seen people defend the idea of Professor X being a jerk in this movie because he was in First Class. But we've seen his character supposedly evolve.
Yeah.
Like, he should not still be acting like this.
Like, he shouldn't be sitting at a table with Timothy Dalton talking about the greater good.
Right!
To bring Hot Fuzz into this.
Just to go back to, I have to note at the beginning of the movie, we see kind of like the origin of Jean Grey's powers. Even though supposedly we already know. And I just love the fact that she's in the car with her parents, and the radio dial starts changing. And the wife has the nerve to look at the husband immediately and blame him, when it's obvious his hand was nowhere near the dial.
Yep. Look, people are crazy. And, you know, I will get... Okay, to establish the epitome of the writers not knowing what they're doing, I want to point something out. X-Men Apocalypse did a better job explaining why Quicksilver doesn't fix everything than this movie did.
Yes.
Because they just like, you know what, we can't have Quicksilver fix everything, so let's just knock him out. And he's just out of the movie now. They didn't kill him, they just knocked him out.
He was going at super speed when he got hit.
Yep. That tracks.
That messed
right?
him up good. That messed him up good.
Yeah. It's just,
I guess Mystique was right all along.
At least it looked like Jennifer Lawrence actually wanted to be in this movie.
Yeah, it was funny because I was hearing like such bad things about her in this movie, and the fact that like she was done, she just came in kind of like it was a favor. But she actually did a pretty good job. I was surprised, like outside of the complete stupidity at one point in a pivotal scene that is pretty much spoiled in the trailers with the outcome of her character. But other than
my God, was that ever spoiled?
But outside of that, I thought she did a pretty good job, except for that one line that they gave her that made no sense that I absolutely hated.
I don't think I actually know which one you're talking about, but go ahead.
It should be the X-Women.
Thank you. I actually forgot that was a line in this movie.
Okay, to put in context, when they had this moment where Jean tries to actually the whole group, the whole X-Men go up to space to save a group of people that are stranded in the space shuttle.
Yep.
Quicksilver and Nightcrawler save a majority of the crew. Jean saves the last person. And that's where we have the big explosion where she comes in contact with the Phoenix spirit, or being, or whatever they want to call it in this movie.
Yep.
And when Mystique, Jennifer Lawrence, confronts Professor X about it, she brings up the fact, well, the women are making all the saves. It shouldn't be the X-Men, it should be the X-Women. Completely ignoring all the work that the Quicksilver and Nightcrawler did. And just ham-fisting that necessity into it. Like, it just made, it's funny because now we've had 2 Marvel movies this year where I felt like this girl power moment that shouldn't be. It was just like so forced and unbelievable. We had Captain Marvel, well, I'm just a girl.
Yeah.
And now this.
I know. Oh, I do want to point out that the aliens in this who are shapeshifters, they actually aren't supposed to be the Skrulls. They're supposed to be the Dabari, because the Dabaris were in the original Dark Phoenix saga.
Right.
That's probably worth mentioning, because a lot of people said, oh, they were supposed to be the Skrulls.
Right, exactly. And that's why they changed it from Captain Marvel, from the ending, and all that kind of stuff.
It doesn't seem to be the case, unless for some reason they were the Skrulls. But because there's so many stories about all the stuff that got re-edited in this film,
and it's very obvious that last third.
Oh yeah, I know Professor X was right all along. Don't you know? This movie, man, no one is. Okay, that's not true. Sophie Turner tries.
She had nothing. They did poor thing. I feel so sorry for her because the stuff they gave her, there was no way she could have made it good.
No.
You want to show how conflicted she is? She's crying in an alley during a rainy day.
Yep. I'm only happy when it rains. Nicholas Hoult wasn't bad as Beast in this either, but I mean,
he did a great job. But it was like, but that was another thing. Like, we had the romantic connections that weren't as profound in the movie series. That they tried to make it like it was a big deal. Like, yeah, we know that Cyclops and Jean Grey love each other in the comics, but they really haven't emphasized it that much, even in the previous movies, like what they did with Apocalypse.
No.
And now we have like, oh my goodness, Cyclops can't live without Jean if she dies here. And the same thing like with Beast and Mystique. Like, we've had that connection with them, but they never went as far as
it was in universe 30 years ago.
Right.
I mean, by the way, the time skips are just getting ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Because we're in 92 now.
Yes.
And Professor X still looks like he was at first class.
Don't worry, just in time for 1999, he's going to turn into Patrick Stewart.
But I will say this though, and this is another big thing that really got to me, was the reaction between humans and mutants in this. Because of course we had this moment where Jean snaps and Dark Phoenix comes out and beats up some cops. Like, they say they kill cops, so you never really see it. And at this point, the X-Men are pretty popular figures because of what happened with Apocalypse. And we have a moment where we see that like Professor X is digging the fact that he has like a one-way line to the president. And when Dark Phoenix happens, the president is like, no. You killed a couple cops. It was just one of you, but we're done with any mutants. And Professor X is like sitting there, hello, just on the phone, hello. Okay, yeah. I've lost all types of respect from the President of the United States, and mutants are pretty much done for at this point in the eyes of humanity.
Yep, we got a problem.
Magneto, the actions of Magneto didn't mean as much as what Jean Grey did to a couple of cops.
I know, this is like freaking Magneto. He's founding his own island nation,
right?
Which is totally not something a supervillain would do. Yeah.
I know. I don't know if you picked up on this, but I know a lot of people made fun of this and the fact that it was like a lot of blue. It was like just solely blue mutants working in the fields for Genosha.
Oh my god. That's right. So that's what happened to the Thundercats. Or the Na'vi, or whatever the hell they were from Avatar.
Oh my goodness, they're the Na'vi.
Avatar X-Men crossover confirmed.
2022.
We gotta make them dollars.
We gotta make it, Disney, man. Get to work.
Own the mouse. own reality. Oh man.
Oh man. This movie. I did not have high hopes. I really did. And like I said, I made a joke. I talked about reading the book, but even then, it's like I can separate. Just like for example, Logan. You know, reading Old Man Logan. Two totally different stories the way they present them, but still, the movie's great.
Absolutely, I love that movie.
I adore Logan. To me, it's Logan and X2. Like in the X-Men universe, is my favorite two movies.
I still really like Days of Future Past.
I think it's underrated. I really do. I think it's underrated.
I probably like it more than First Class, honestly.
Oh, same here.
I know a lot of people like First Class.
No, same here. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but, it's probably. I don't know what my top three would be, because like it would definitely be X-Men 2, it would definitely be Logan, and it would definitely be Days of Future Past. I just don't know what order.
I think that'll probably be the way for me.
And they had the most logical reason to not keep using Quicksilver.
Exactly.
I want to go back and be with my family. All right, you're a person with your own needs. That makes sense. We're not going to take away your agency by smacking you with a piece of rebar. Or what did he get hit with?
I really can't even remember. I think you're right though. I think it was rebar.
I swear it was rebar. Which should just kill him.
Yeah, exactly. Don't
we can't kill him. We've already killed one main character. I'm like, kill two. Who cares?
Don't put him
obviously
on
you don't care.
And imagine he's gonna make a heroic comeback, and he just never shows up again.
He doesn't show up in any of the other movies that these are supposedly prequels to.
Right.
So, although Gene also dies again. So who cares anymore? Non-spoiler.
Yeah, who doesn't know this at this point?
I know.
This
you know what?
This is what
I'm leaving that in.
I'm saying this is based on almost a 40-year-old story.
Yeah. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. And we know she died in X3. You really think they're going to do something different and not kill her this time?
Exactly. Exactly.
They even killed her in the cartoon, even though they resurrected her right away.
Exactly. But that was actually something I was going to bring up, too. Even her death is completely different compared to the comic book. And it's so much worse.
Yep.
That's the biggest. That's the spoiler I'll give you. You know she dies, but the way she dies is worse than the comic book.
Well, basically everything in this is worse than the comics.
Everything in this.
But we got time for that guy who apparently is just somebody's fanfic mutant. It's the guy who was supposed to be Red Lotus, but then wasn't Red Lotus. And even then, why would you include Red Lotus?
And the worst part, I was so hoping the shape-shifting aliens. I was like, maybe this might actually be Lilandra. Like they might switch it up and do something that I didn't expect them to do. No, they just. Yeah,
or Protean or Proteus or whatever his name is.
Yeah, something.
Yep. No, it's
just
full ahead boring.
Just some white-haired chick that just does nothing.
And the crowd goes mild.
Did you even say they went mild?
Yes.
I can't even say mild.
Yeah.
I get like a golf clap.
I wouldn't even give them that. Look, you and I love the X-Men franchise a fair bit. It was probably one of our favorite cartoons on TV when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah. And you actually read a fair bit of the comics. I have not read as many X-Men comics as I probably should have.
Right.
Although I'm familiar with a lot of the major storylines.
Right.
Yeah, some better than others. I'm so glad they didn't integrate the one about trying to make Nightcrawler the Pope.
Oh yeah.
with the killer communion wafers.
Yes.
Oh my god. What? Why? Why was this a serious melodramatic plan? Also didn't treat women very well.
Yep.
Yeah. Look, folks, this summer's got a lot of mediocre movies and a lot of pretty awesome overlooked movies.
Yeah.
Go see one of the awesome overlooked movies instead.
Yeah, definitely. Don't.
Or just wait a week and go see Spider-Man, because that's probably going to get a lot of views anyway.
Yeah, and I'm hearing great things about it too, so...
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. Like I said,
I'm actually looking forward to it way more than I should be now.
I know, and this is the worst part. I didn't even have my hopes up for this movie, and it still dashed them.
Yep. Like, there was like maybe one or two things I was interested in seeing, and I didn't even see those. So I was really hoping to actually see them like integrate Quicksilver better, or something like that. And
I was hoping for the metamorphosis to be better. Like, that's what I was hoping for. Like, when it happened, I was expecting, like, okay, we have a nice little gradual pace of her, like, saving like something from a catastrophic event as the Phoenix, and then becoming consumed by it. It's like, no, she's walking around the woods, and now she's evil.
You know, I just even realized the daddy issues are so pointless.
Yeah.
Because, man, they didn't add that in post, right?
I don't think they did, but it's weird. Like, it just didn't feel connected at all.
Like, like, the more I think of it, I'm like, that feels like the thing they tacked on to make it more human.
Right, like, they thought, like, instead of just having her, like, the first scene being her going to the School of the Gifted, it was like, oh, we have to have something else happen. Oh, let's get into the comic book. Oh, remember that scene from the comic book? Let's do this, but different.
Yeah, and like, that leads to a majority of the character assassination for Jean.
Right.
And not to mention the professor. And so it's just like,
Oh, and also, Cyclops. The state of your abilities. I've never seen someone have a mutant power and fail as much as Cyclops does.
He literally has one power. He looks at things.
Right.
How is he screwing this up?
How can you not aim?
Do you not know how to turn your head and look?
Do you not know how to look at the direction of something that you want to look at?
He's like Batman in Batman Begins. He can't even turn his head. Oh, dear.
Oh, man. Poor Cyclops. He has gotten a rough deal in all the X-Men movies. But, like, this is the worst. Because at least, and the other ones, at least he can use his powers.
Look, Cyclops has a secret mutant power. He turns into a dick.
Yeah.
The problem is it never turns off. See, we're just... Look, we already kind of wrapped up the discussion once, but I'm just going to say, we tried. We failed. If you take joy from this, cool, but we didn't. And we did try.
And that's the thing. It's not like I'm coming in this automatically hating on it. Like, I wanted to enjoy something from it. I really did.
No, because, like, I was looking for joy, because, like I said, this is the last hurrah, and I'm like, I knew about all the editing. I'm like, you know, maybe they're just trying to make it so that this franchise can get a nice end. No.
Right, no. I mean, in the worst part, the running time is even more disrespectful to the whole story. It doesn't even make 2 hours.
Yep. No, who cares? They just gotta, yeah.
Just get it out of the way. Just flush it down the toilet. Call it a day.
Look, all I can say is, next episode, hopefully we'll have some more joy, because we're hopefully going to be talking about, I think we got 3 things on the docket that, well, okay, one we haven't seen yet.
Right.
But presumably we'll probably at least somewhat enjoy.
Yeah, because, I mean, the first one went very well.
Yeah, and the other 2 things, well, one of them I'm super enjoying, and the other one I thought was pretty solid and worth talking about.
Yeah,
even
definitely.
if there was some flaws, I mean, that's definitely worthy of discussion. Yeah, so hopefully if you were a little disappointed that we became overly negative this week.
It won't be a downhill arc of, okay, we really enjoyed this. Okay, this is pretty good. Okay, this is utter crap.
I just love how the negativity washed over, so I had to complain about Game of Thrones again. Oh, man. Well, until a more optimistic future, folks, keep your stick on the ice. Let's see if this gets us a copyright strike.